All right, let's talk about the book of First Chronicles. And look, if you've ever tried to read it and just got completely bogged down in those first 9 chapters of names, yeah, you're not alone. But here's the thing. This isn't just some dry, dusty historical record. It's actually a story, one that was carefully put together for a very specific moment in time, and it carries this powerful message of hope.
And that really gets to the core question the book is trying to answer. Just imagine for a second, your entire community has been shattered, your home is destroyed, and you're finally coming back to the ruins. How do you even begin to rebuild? Not just the buildings, but your sense of who you are, your purpose, and your hope for the future. That's the challenge that 1 Chronicles is taking on, head on.
So, to really get this book, we have to understand who it was written for. Because, it wasn't written for us, not directly anyway. It was a story written for people who were deep in crisis.
Okay, so here's the situation. The people of Israel have been conquered. They were forced out of their homes and into exile in Babylon. Now, decades later, a small group is finally allowed to return to Jerusalem, but they're feeling totally disconnected from their land, from their history, and maybe even from their God. They desperately needed a reminder of who they were and that God hadn't just forgotten all his promises to them.
So how does the author even start to rebuild that sense of identity? Well, it begins with all those long lists of names we mentioned. It starts by, you could say, untangling the national family tree.
We see this word genealogy, which is basically just a fancy term for a family tree. And while these lists of names might seem, a little tedious to us today, for the people hearing this for the first time, they were an absolute lifeline. And check out how the author does it. The list starts all the way back with Adam, the very first human. Then it traces the line down to the 12 tribes of Israel, and it lands right on the community that had just returned from exile. It's this unbroken line connecting the dawn of humanity directly to them, right there in that moment.
So this is the crucial point, right? This wasn't just some boring history lesson. No way! It was this powerful statement about their identity. It was saying to every single person listening, hey, you are not lost. You haven't been forgotten. You are a part of this huge, ancient family, and you belong right here.
Okay, so after establishing who the people are, the book zooms in on their greatest leader, King David. But it presents him in a really specific way.
You got to see the contrast here. If you read the books of Samuel, you get the whole story of David, the good, the bad, and the really ugly parts. But 1 Chronicles, it basically filters all of that messy stuff out. It intentionally gives us this idealized version of him, holding him up as the perfect model of a faithful leader. And there's a really good reason for this. I mean, think about it. For a community that's literally trying to rebuild from rubble, a complicated, flawed hero wasn't what they needed. They needed a symbol to aspire to, a solid reminder of what a leader totally dedicated to God could accomplish.
So this ideal version of David is shown doing 4 key things. First, he confirms that he was chosen by God. Second, he brings the Ark of the Covenant, which is God's symbolic presence, back to its rightful place. Third, he makes Jerusalem secure, and, maybe most importantly, he gathers all the materials and makes all the plans for building the temple. You see, his entire reign is pointing toward one big thing.
And that one thing? Well, it's the heart of the entire book. It's not just about family trees or some perfect king. It's about the thing that holds it all together, the heart of worship.
Everything in 1 Chronicles, the genealogies, the story of David, all those meticulous lists, it all funnels down to the single central focus. The message is clear. For this community to survive and to thrive, they had to recenter their entire lives around the true worship of God. And this wasn't some vague, feel-good idea. The book lays out the actual pillars of that worship, the plans for the temple, the importance of the priesthood, putting a huge emphasis on the tribe of Levi, and the super detailed organization of everything, from the musicians to the gatekeepers. For this audience, getting these details right was absolutely crucial.
So when you put it all together, the family tree giving them an identity, the ideal king giving them a model, and the focus on worship giving them a center, you start to realize this book isn't just looking backward. It's actually a blueprint for hope looking forward.
And this is the ultimate takeaway. By reminding the people of who they were and showing God's faithfulness through a figure like David, the book points them toward a future hope, a hope for a new, messianic king from David's line who would one day come and fully restore God's kingdom. It told them their story wasn't over. In fact, the best chapter was still to come.
Which kind of leaves us with this final thought. 1 Chronicles is an ancient book for a specific group of people, but the strategy it uses is universal, isn't it? It makes you ask the question, for all of us, how do the stories we choose to tell about our past, about our families, our communities, our nations. How do those stories give us the framework and the hope we need to build a better future?